Hi friends and welcome. Going to paint tonight on an 8x10 panel. I did tone it, as you can see, in my bright acrylic colors, and I actually toned it more for a horizontal scene, but we're doing a vertical scene. I find it doesn't much matter. It's just nice to have that bright color popping through, so this should work fine. Painting from one of my photos I took years ago at a farm near here, one of the little sheds on the farm. I really like the shadows in the foreground and got some subtle shadows in the front, and of course under the eave. It's a nice scene. It's one I would choose if I was painting plein air. And it's going to be similar to painting plein air, except of course the shadows aren't going to move on us, but I'm going to start the same way I always would. Actually, I did go out and paint in my car the other day a little bit, and I did take you along. I had the camera set up. It's awkward and it's crowded, and the sun overheated my camera and shut it off, so I didn't get very far. So we'll be going out again. I mean, it's early in the year and now it's kind of chilly again. So what we'll do is we'll start off like I always would, whether I was outside or inside. And we would get a sketch on the canvas first, and a kind of a value sketch, and try to get, when you're outside, you either have to go after the shadows or after the light and block it in, and try really hard not to chase the light as it moves. So I usually go after the shadows that I see first and block those in. So let's make some reference marks here as to the, it does run off the edge a little bit, and I wouldn't have to do that that's the way my photo is, but I think I will. There are a few changes I'm going to make from the photo. There is a pole right in front of the building that I don't think I'm going to put in, but there is a power line to run across, and there's a telephone pole back here that I do kind of like. So we are going to put that in. Welcome to my new subscribers. We're really growing. And if you didn't catch a video from yesterday, I drew two names for the drawing last Friday, and I gave it a week, and I never heard from the first person, so I drew a new name yesterday, and that person will get a choice of the paintings that are left. So yeah, I feel bad for the first person that I drew, but I just couldn't connect with them. I did try. I did message them through YouTube, and so I use my brush handle a lot. When I'm outside, I would be using my view catcher. Let me show you that. Here it is down here. This is a view catcher, and you slide it for the size your canvas is. Say you were painting square, you would open it wide up. And I use it if I'm painting plein air, or if I'm painting like a still life setup and I'm working from life, and I look through that and figure out where things land on my canvas. But when we're painting from a photo, obviously we're not going to be, I'm not using that, but I am still using the handle of my brush. I put it against I reach out and line things up where they land on the photo, and then I make marks over here, the angles of the roof. It's handy for that. So we'll spend a little while on our sketch first, you know. I want to get that right. This is a board and batten, I think you call it, on this, like a siding with the little strips of wood. A little bit of a roadway there. And I'm going to look at these shadow shapes and that's what I liked about this. I like the dappled light effect that we've got going. So we'll be kind of blocking these shadows in before we start. And again, there's a telephone pole back here that I do like. Oh, and it kind of balls up. Looks like it goes down. So we'll do that. Yeah, I started a painting up in town the other day, like I said, for my car, and I didn't get it finished, so. And this is the darkest shadow on the building, is under the eave here. So we'll block it in. Some people are really good at the dappled light effect, and it's really a pretty effect, I think. Trying to think of his name. Guy I follow on Facebook. I've seen him demo. Bill Farnsworth. He's, I think, from Florida. If you follow him on Facebook, he's really good at that. He does some really beautiful paintings with nice dappled light in them. You know, we've got subtle shadows too coming across the building. I'm going to kind of block in some of those too, but I don't want them to be so dark. We'll see how it works. I mean, it may feel better without all these shadows in the end. That's a little high. This is a tool by Catalyst. It's like a rubber scraper. It's nice to remove paint for your drawing process or even painting. And let's see where that window is. The shadow ends there. There's a cute square window out there. There's a couple bushes right here. And this is a shadow here. And there is some depth in this, which is nice. You can see back behind. And then there's a tree line that starts, and the tree runs about over into there. So like I said, it's kind of a value sketch we're doing. I talk a lot about the workshop I did with Shelby Keefe, but I really did enjoy it. And this is one of the things she did. I think in the past I would always sometimes I'd take a palette knife and put my power lines in, sometimes a liner brush. She puts hers in first like I just did and paints up to them. In her opinion, you get a nicer effect that way. So if you haven't tried, that's something else you might consider trying. There's actually more shadow than there is light. And we'll be going back over these shadows too. I mean, I'm not going to leave them like this, but and I'm not sure how we'll handle the board and batten. I mean, I guess you could paint in all the vertical stripes and come in, but we'll see. I may not want them even when it comes down to it. I kind of make decisions as I go along. There's a little bit of some foliage coming in here, but I don't think we need that. It's from a tree someplace out of view. All right, so let's start with that. I think that's pretty good. Actually, I'm going to add a few more kind of darks, like running across this pathway. Some kind of a fence post right here too, which we might like. Looking at this again, deciding if I feel like this pattern works. All right, we're going to start with our lightest light, which is the front of our building where it's catching light. And that will be white with a little bit of yellow. Painting is all about observing. I was walking a while back and coming down the street, and the sun was starting to set, and it was, you know, hitting the side of my house, and oh, it was unbelievable how orange it was. I love sunsets. All right, we'll get a different brush here. We're going to dip into a little bit of solvent and then into our paint. All right. We've got a neat pattern up here from the board and batten. Kind of a zigzaggy kind of pattern. I think I told you I entered the Women's Art Club show and another show, the Evendale show. Good news, bad news. Got 2 of the 3 paintings I entered into the Evendale show in, and they did not take my paintings for the Women's Art Club show. I think I've voiced my opinion on that show before. I'm not going to enter it anymore because I can tell when you go to the show, I've said this before if you listen to me, that they are intent on choosing a variety of mediums. So there's always work that's not great in it, in my opinion. I think it should just be the best of the work that's submitted, but again, not everybody would agree with me on that, I'm sure. Obviously they don't. I just think it should be a great show, even if all, you know, if they all happen to be the same medium. That's not going to happen, but instead of taking, you know, abstracts that aren't good, just to have abstracts, and some that are mixed media that I don't consider fine art, but That's how I feel about it. And actually you had to respond to the email, and I actually did tell them how I felt. I think it hurts the show. And I'm sure I just sound like a sore loser right? I'm sure that's probably what they thought. And I feel that way even when I've gotten in. So, again, I'm just not going to enter anymore. It's expensive to enter, and if you're going to be an artist, there's always rejection. And I'll tell you, it doesn't mean anything. In the law, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean your work's not good. I know these paintings I entered are better than work I submitted years ago that got in. You know, it's some judge's opinion. And they might reject you because they only need so many paintings, or they need so many oil paintings, or you can get rejected for so many reasons. I have had friends that got rejected from one show, and then with the same paintings they've gotten it into a different show, so a good show. So there you go. So don't take it personal. So I'm kind of looking at these shadow shapes. We'll see whether we decide to leave them or not. You know, the whole building obviously is white. So in these darker areas, we'll have to cool them off, make them a little darker. We'll be going over them, but and I don't know if this is right up here. I just kind of went with, I was just trying to vary it some. It kind of goes up, down, up, down, up, down, like with spaces between. If you know what board and batten is, that's what the building is. So they side it and they put little strips of wood over top of it. So that's what it is. I will be doing a show next Saturday. I think that's the 26th or 27th at Northminster. It's Northminster Fine Arts Show in Finneytown, Ohio. If you're in the Cincinnati area, we'll be setting that up Friday night, and it's just one day on Saturday. That same evening, unfortunately, there'll be a opening for a show for the Monday group that I paint with out at Sinclair College right here in town. So I have 4 paintings in that show, but I can't attend the opening. And we may, go after some of this with a palette knife, to get cleaner color. And I don't know, that's odd to tell what you're even looking at there. All right, let's mix up. I'm going to mix up something for the shadow area of it. So I'm going to mix up, be lots of ways to arrive at that. As I look at it, it's cooler and it's lighter. So I'm mixing up a purple and I'm putting that same light color into it, and we'll see how that goes. We won't really know how any of this is working until we get a long way along. Well, if you're an artist, tell me what you're working on. And what's your favorite subject to paint? You know, I do a lot of pets. I do a lot of pet commissions. But if you scroll through my my photos that are on my computer, oh my gosh, probably 70% of them are barns. So there's no doubt I love barns. I'm really drawn to a barn catching good light. And a lot of them I shoot out of the car window. I say we'll take a palette knife to this later. But this would be one, if I saw it plein air painting, I would definitely be excited about the idea of painting it and capturing the light. And all right, let's clean our brush off. I think we're going to go after those light greens that we see in the grass. So I think I'm going to have to get some, cobalt blue out. I'm going to take I've been playing around with greens, I don't use tube greens, so we're going to try to come up with, you can use phthalo and like lemon and do a green, it'll knock your shoes off, just really intense. But we're going to try some cobalt, which is my warmest blue, and some cad yellow medium, which is my warmest green, and put some white in that. And the white cools it off and lightens it, but you know, I think I like that. We'll see what it looks like. Now I'm going to look at my photo and just try to block in these really light greens where I see them. And we don't want to hide all of our pink and orange either. I always say it's like a puzzle, you know, painting, going after shapes and colors. It depends on your style too. My goal is to be impressionistic, so. Yeah, we're going after these lighter greens, and then we'll go after the darker greens. I think I want this area dark, even though I don't have it that way. This back in here actually looks lighter yet. And I'll warm it up a little more yellow, a little more white for back in there. Kind of like doing, you know, sky holes and trees. All right, let's mix up a darker green now. I think what we'll try is we'll put some ultramarine into that green mixture that we've already got, which of course darkens it. And I think I'm going to even put a little crimson in there, which warms it a little bit. It's pretty dark, the difference between the shadow area and the light area. If you notice and look at people's paintings, when they're painting something that's very, very lit, a lot of times the shadows will be very hard. And I had dark on here already too. Like I said, I made the decision to go dark all the way down into there. And that's sidewalk there, so the shadow color will not be green running across there. Worst thing can happen is it doesn't work and we scrape it off and redo it. And again, I'm trying to, leave some of this pink and some of my tone, pulling my strokes down. And I'm not sure, at this point, if this is bright enough or how I feel about it even, but we're going to leave it for now, okay? Let's move on and we'll get some color on that tree. And we'll start off, and there are a few, actually I have some of it there, there are a few darker areas to the tree. I'm pretty sure we're going to get our palette knife out and really define some of these edges. You know, at this point, this feels kind of crazy busy to me, but we'll try to leave it alone though. We'll move on. All right. Let's block the sky in. And if you recall, I did a painting with ultramarine and blue for this sky. I showed you some paintings of Collie Wyson, and that's what he used. So that's what we're going to try again today. His are actually pretty dark, and we'll start off that way in the top of the sky, and we'll lighten and warm it when we come down. And we'll cut into we'll cut into our telephone line. But I don't want to stop the color right there. I don't want to make that mistake. You know, you don't want to look like you just blocked in this area one color and then below it another. So we'll warm it up down in here. It's easy to kind of follow shapes without realizing you're doing it, like around a building or so. Let's warm this up a little bit with a little yellow, a little white. Chuck Marshall is a very good artist, and he lives here local. I have one of his DVDs. You may have heard his name. I saw today he's going to have I think a 3-day plein air workshop the end of, I think it said the end of April. I might consider that. Been a while since I took any lessons from Chuck. He's very, very good. All right, let's put our little sidewalk in, which is a gray color. We've got the shadow coming across. So we'll take some of our yellow and white and start with that. I like sidewalks to be a little bit on the warm side, so a little orange. All right, we're blocked in. Let's look at it now. I'm liking the block in on the building. This not as much, and it could be that I need to go lighter on the greens. I'm squinting and looking. I mean, there is a big variation in value there. I'm going to mix up something lighter. You know, and it could be the pattern too that I've done. I see areas that are lighter yet. Sometimes I notice they're kind of circular shaped. Dappled light's a good challenge. Trying to look at the shapes on my photo of these shadows. Can't really tell what's going on that side. All right, let's get our palette knife out and going to put in some of this detail on the roof. You know, the window is kind of a unusual window, and I could do whatever I wanted with it. But I think we're going to just suggest some I'm not sure how I feel about any of that yet, but we'll. I was thinking about suggesting some of these battens, but I don't know. You know, and how particular do we want to get up here? I don't know. And of course, we don't know what's causing the shadow. We assume probably a tree that's out of our view. That's something that can be nice to do, is just to bring a shadow into your foreground. If you darken the foreground, it pulls the eye back into the painting a little more. So I'm going to cut this back a little bit. You know, I can always go back at this later and decide if I'm getting the effect I want. See, right here is really dark, and it is in the photo too. You know, it's a simple little white building just sitting there in the sunlight. See, I don't know that I'm going to mess with the telephone pole or the lines anymore, really. You know, I'm going for impressionism, and I think it feels not too bad. Like I said, I could take my palette knife and I could put in every one of these battens if I wanted, but I mean, I was wondering if we suggested a few. No, it's not going through. I think one thing I want to do is that it is shattered over here, but I think it's the edge is kind of lost because of it. So we're going to put it back in. All right, does it feel like a little building in the sun? Hopefully. I'm looking close to see now what's in the photo. I said there's actually a couple poles. One runs right here and one's back here against the building. Maybe I want it, maybe I don't. My goal here tonight was to do a painting that had dappled light and nice shadows. So hopefully that's what it feels like. Yeah, you could spend a lot of time, playing with the shape of these shadows and well, I'm going to stop there for tonight. It's been 50 minutes, and I'll look at it. I may come back and really develop it. I could put lines in the building. I might want those poles in. I'm not sure. I might decide to create a lot more of a pattern in the grass too. But I think as I stand back and look at it, I feel like this is lit and these are shadows, and I feel the dappled light. Maybe it needs to have more of a feel of grass. So, well, I hope you enjoyed watching. I might have that tree a little light too, but I did want it lighter because it's back there in the background. Well, if you just happened on me and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. We'll do another giveaway for too long. All right, we're gonna, I think, quit playing with it. These are some kind of bushes right here. Okay, hope you enjoyed watching that, and we'll do something different next time. I try to break it up, and like I said, when the weather gets nice, we'll move outside and try to do some plein air. I'll show you, how I set up and what I take, and it's a similar process, but of course everything is moving, and you wonder why people do it sometimes. It's very challenging with the wind and the sun, but it can be very, very pleasant too. All right. Thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it, and welcome to my new subscribers again, and watch for me next time. Bye-bye.